Everything comes with a history. It's a common knowledge that we should learn history to understand the present, but when that history is not entirely pleasant or even dark, it is a human nature that we rather want to cover it up, ignore, and move on. If that history is about something so personal and private as your own family, such a protective instinct is bound to be stronger. But you can never just dismiss the past, because it will come back, sometimes in a way that no one could have expected. Today, we are taking a look at such a hidden and forgotten family history, coming back to reveal itself in a creepy fashion. As usual, there will be elements of family dynamic, karma, and Korean shamanism. So, here are 4 allegedly true stories about the hidden dark family history. As always, handpicked, translated, and narrated by a host, Anthony. I had an older sister, or so I am told, because she died even before I was born. She was 10 years older than I and died of a car accident when I was 3-week-old fetus. Mom went mad with a shock. I mean, literally. She was locked up in a psychiatric ward a while. They couldn't prescribe her medication either because she was pregnant with me. It took good half a year till she regained herself. When she did, she was shocked to find her now heavy belly bearing numerous scars of scratches. Apparently, while she was mad, she would cry and roll about on the floor for hours and then burst into giggles and then claim there was a big candy in her tummy and scratched her belly till it bled. When I was still little, my family used to call me a good luck charm. It was only later I learned that was because they believed that it was thanks to the imminent birth of me that my mom regained her sanity. But this story is about my 10th birthday. My family prepared a little celebration for me, and the last thing I remember is Mom lighting the candles on my birthday cake. Apparently, I passed out at that point. When I got around again, Mom was crying out loud next to me. My 11-year-older brother was suppressing tears with his head turned away, and Dad was picking up broken dishes with a dark face. For the following few days, Mom hardly said anything, and there was certain sadness in Dad's eyes as he saw me going to school in the morning. It was only a few years later that my brother told me what happened at my 10th birthday party. Everybody was waiting for me to blow out the candles, but I suddenly started sobbing. They couldn't understand why my mood suddenly swung from all excitement to sobs, until I started saying between sobs,
"I'm so happy my little sister is well, but I'm also angry because there's no cake for me. I know I'm bad, so I'm sorry."
It was Mom who first understood the meaning of the gibberish and started crying. Then I continued addressing to Brother.
"And I'm sorry. I broke the arm of your favorite toy, didn't I? I said I hate you then, but I didn't really. I like you actually. I'm sorry."
My brother dropped his cake dish with a shock there. I carried on.
"Mom, Dad, Brother, I love you all so much. I'm sorry I had to go first, but I will protect you now."
And then dropped on the floor. From my 11th birthday party. Mom always prepared some fruit, traditional pan-fried goodies, and rice cake with the 10 candles on it, on top of the usual birthday cake and sweets. I didn't know the meaning of those, but then I felt always so happy about them, like a little child, for the reasons I couldn't understand. Now I'm 20, and I know my birthdays were also a little memorial ritual for my sister, whom I have never had a chance to get to know. But I feel her in me. So, that's okay. I have 2 older sisters. It is often the case that the middle child gets the least attention from parents, and my second sister fits exactly that case. She wasn't in any way maltreated or abused, but comparing to the first sister who was, well, the first child in the family, or me who is the only son and the baby in the family, second sister was always treated as an afterthought. Moreover, she has now grown up a beautiful lady, but as a little girl she had rather a lot of baby fat and plump cheeks and was nicknamed as that chubby girl among relatives. Anyway, when my second sister turned about 5, she would wake up around midnight and burst into cry for a good couple of hours, while the first sister and I just slept on, no problem. At first, my parents tried to console her, asked what was up, let her sleep in their bedroom, etc. But the midnight outburst carried on weeks, and they started losing patience. Frustrated dad even opted for spanking. It was still common back then, but it didn't help. With no resolve, everybody started getting exhausted and irritable after weeks of disturbed nights. One day, our grandma, Mom's mother, came to visit us. At the time, we lived in Jeju Island due to my dad's job. Back then in the late 70s, it was much more tricky to visit the island from Seoul, where Grandma lived, but she made it quite out of blue, apparently. Grandma stayed with us for a week, and then said to Mom,
Mi-jung,
my second sister,
is clearly not doing well here. Let me take her with me for a month or so.
Mom, you saw what happens. She will keep you awake night after night, Mom said.
No worries. I've come to visit for her actually. Put her under my care for a month.
Grandma insisted, and in the end she did take my second sister with her. A week passed, and Mom got a call from Grandma.
You do have some sea salt at home, don't you?
She said.
Burn it, and put a small handful of them at each corner of the house. Do it right away.
Mom didn't know whatever that was for, or indeed wasn't sure if one could even burn salt at all, but did as she was told and reported back to Grandma.
Well done. Now, spread some atsuki beans around the floor of the house too.
Grandma further instructed. When Mom followed up that she did as she was told, Grandma said,
Good, good. Mi-jung will be fine now.
And just a week later, Grandma took my sister back home. Only then Grandma explained what had been going on. From a few months back, Grandma started to suffer weird dreams. A guy neatly dressed in suit and fedora hat would appear and tell her,
My life is fucked, all because of you, and you are sleeping soundly?
And he would beat her with his walking stick, spit and swear at her mercilessly. Grandma couldn't figure out for her life who the guy was, not to mention if she ever done something so malicious as to destroy other person's life. Yet the same dream persisted for days. In the end, she sought an opinion from the abbot of her local Buddhist temple.
I'm not a big insightful one at all, so I can't tell who that mystery guy in your dream should be and what he is up with you. Nevertheless, I will help you,
the abbot said. Grandma didn't know what he was going to do for her, but anyway made some extra offering and prayed daily to Buddha for the following few days. And then the guy appeared once again in her dream. But this time he said,
"You are using a dirty trick, eh? All right, I go. But I won't just go. I will find a way to pay it all back to you."
Indeed, the man didn't appear again, but Grandma couldn't shake off creeping anxiety about the whole thing. And then her thought reached what if the damn guy in fedora hat was up to disturb her children now. So she took the journey around her children. First to her sons. Everything was fine with him and his family. And then came all the way to Jeju Island to check on Mom and us, only to find her second granddaughter having a fit every night. One day, she held my sister in her arms and asked her with a low voice,
"What makes you cry so, my puppy? Is it some guy that scared you?"
Sister's eyes got wide and said,
"How do you know that, Granny? You see, every night the guy with a long face and in a hat would appear and beat me. He told me that if I talked about him to Mommy and Daddy, he would beat them too. I'm scared, Granny,"
she added, dropping big tears from her eyes. And so, Grandma took her with her. The abbot was only so much of a help, so Grandma decided to seek a famous shaman instead. But they said they had only the rich and powerful as their client, and there was no place for an ordinary old woman like my grandma, and didn't even let her in. Grandma just dropped on the ground in front of the gate and bursted into tears with my sister in her arms. Then, a woman in a pajama trousers came out. Grandma thought she could be a cleaner or a kitchen hand to the shaman's household, but still hung on to her as the last hope.
Ma'am, please tell your mistress to give us a chance. It's all for the poor little girl here. I would do anything."
The pajama woman giggled and said,
Don't promise what you can't keep, Grandma.
"Well, come in anyway." She took the grandma and my sister straight to the big room at the heart of the house, and she set herself at the host's place and said straight,
"So, you want me to drive away that menial servant guy?"
Menial? But he's dressed up in a suit like a gentleman," Grandma said.
"A gentleman, my ass. He was but a servant of all work at your household back in the days.
Well, seems like he did make some money in Japan later," Shaman said. Grandma was born and grew up in Kaesong City, now a part of North Korea, and hers was one of the richest family in town until they lost everything during Korean War. The shaman carried on.
"That unruly servant touched you when you were little. Thankfully he was caught and kicked out of the household. He ran away to Japan and had some success, but
Karma is a bitch, and he was killed before his time. But then why is he taking grudge at you lately? Anyway, Grandma spent not a small sum to ask the shaman to perform a cleansing ritual, and further passed on the instructions to Mom. I don't know if that is all true at all or not, but at least my second sister didn't suffer night terrors ever since. My parents both worked and were often absent from my life. Thankfully, my grandparents and an aunt lived not far, and they played the role of my carer in day-to-day life. One day, I was at my aunt's after school. Everything was as usual, and we were preparing to have dinner at around 6 in the evening as the dusk was setting. The phone rang. I answered it and found it was Mom on the other side of the line.
"What are you doing there? Come home right away,"
she said, and hung up before I could say anything. Maybe something urgent happened? "Aunt, I must go home. Mom called and told me to come home," I said, and as I headed to the hallway, I saw Aunt coming out from her room, but I just carried on and went out. Only as I walked along now dark street, I realized Aunt looked somewhat different in that brief moment before I headed out. As I said, Aunt was practically my mom. We were very close, and I was very used to her character, vibe, and so on. And Aunt just now had something indescribably shady about her. Back home, Mom interrogated about what I was at Aunt's for and what I did there. I was confused. It was not the first time I spent an afternoon at Aunt's. I did the usual things, played with Aunt, and we were about to have dinner together. What else? I saw Mom's face turning white. She insisted that I shouldn't visit Aunt from now on. And exactly a week later, my family moved to a different part of the town altogether. It was only after we moved that I learned, the night before I visited Aunt the last, she stayed at Grandma's and unexpectedly passed away with a heart attack in the middle of the night. Everybody thought she was just sleeping and didn't realize she had already passed away into late in the afternoon the following day. The same afternoon, I was hanging around at Aunt's. In the aftermath of the sudden tragedy, it was only in the evening that Mom thought of me. After ringing just about everywhere I might be, she called Aunt's, just in case. As weird as it was, the day was forgotten in my memory. No, my mom or grandma ever mentioned about it either. One day in my middle school, I and some mates got to chatter about ghost stories, and it finally brought back the memory. My mates got excited and encouraged me to revisit old Aunt's house. The day was Saturday, and after school wrapped before lunchtime, I and mates headed to Aunt's old home. The house seemed unoccupied. I sought the landlord of the property, who remembered me as a little boy from years back. He explained a family moved in after Aunt and lived all the while without any issue until they moved out to a different place recently. He was kind enough to let us in and have a look around. Indeed, the house looked clean and fine. I think my mates were a bit disappointed. They must have silently expected a disrepaired, haunted house. Time was now heading to 6. We got hungry, and we were on our way out. and I saw my aunt walking out of her old room. She looked just as I saw her the last time. I froze with a chill, and a deafening sharp noise filled up my ears. When I got around, I was surrounded by my mates. They said I screamed in the middle of tying my shoelace and passed out for a few minutes. I just ran out as soon as I could stand again. I didn't tell what happened to my mom, and I myself don't want to think about it either. Nevertheless, I can't help but feeling a chill whenever I remember the day. It's an old tale from my dad's home village. It really is a tiny backwater village. Even today, one can't get a proper internet connection there. The story goes back when Dad was little, so I leave it to your imagination how much more it must have been behind its time. The lifestyle of the village remained unchanged from 100 years ago. Patriarchy and chauvinism was rampant, and if one was born a girl in such a village, it was common that she never got a chance to go out of the village all her life, unless she was married off to a guy from different town. Even in such a small world, there were a family of high and shitty reputation. I'll call the family with a high reputation the Kim family for the sake of the story. The village might be small and backwater, but the amount of the land the Kim family owned was nothing to scoff at by any standard. They actually ran a small business in Seoul too. It wasn't just the wealth, but also the family dynamic that made them respectable. The patriarch showed affection and respect to his wife, which was rare and deemed unmanly at the time. Their only concern was they were not blessed with a child till the couple turned late 40. As for the shitty family, I'll call them the Park family, not real name. They were much poorer than the Kims, but again, the wealth wasn't the main issue for their poor reputation. The patriarch was the biggest chauvinist in already chauvinistic village. He beat his wife openly and shamelessly. Neighbors turned blind eyes to it, but nevertheless whispered behind their back that how shitty the family was. One among their many woes was that they didn't have a son. Daughters plenty, but no son. But then, both the Kim and Park family announced about the same time that they were expecting a new baby. Indeed, the wives gave birth more or less on the same day, and the old midwife in the village helped them both. Both babies were daughters, and you can imagine how radically different welcome they would have received in their respective family. When the girls reached the school age, the father of the Park family was often seen even more touchy and irritable. His main complaint was his youngest daughter didn't resemble him at all. She should be a child of another man, and he'd kill both his wife and daughter, then be a cuckold, Park shouted around. Usually, the neighbor would have just brushed it off as the crazy guy doing another crazy thing. But the thing was, Park's little daughter indeed didn't look anything like her father. Nobody dared to say it out loud, but as the Park's girl grew, she resembled more and more of Kim's wife, while Kim's daughter more and more of Park's wife. Soon, Park started to attack Kim, that he and his wife must have had an affair. He would kill him. In that small village, such a scandalous claim carried another small weight, and the Kim family felt no less distressed about the whole situation. Actually, more logical theory would have been that the girls were switched at birth, but it was time before genetic test was readily available, and the old midwife who helped the birth of the girls also had already passed away. Only when the rumor reached a boiling point, the daughter of the late midwife came out that there was something she'd been holding back to this point. One day, she was in charge of keeping the side of the 2 newborn babies from the Kim and Park family. She dozed off at one point and had a weird dream. She saw a woman who seemed clearly beaten to pulp, came in the room and switched the babies. In the dream, the daughter of midwife assumed it was the wife of Park because she was often bitten by Park in reality, and told the woman she couldn't do such a thing, that wouldn't change the destiny of the newborns. And the woman dropped big tears before she disappeared again. When the midwife's daughter woke up from the dream, she checked on the babies first. Nothing had changed, including the different baby blankets used to mark the babies, but somehow she wasn't sure anymore if the babies were switched or not. The same dream followed several times more, not just for her, but for her mother, the midwife herself too. They felt anxious, but couldn't really act upon mere dream and just let it pass then. Her confession made the situation only worse. The herd mentality in such a small, tight-knit village can defy common logic, and Park raged only even more, often seen drunk and wielding a sickle, that he would kill them all, his wife, daughter, and the Kim family. In the end, the Kim family decided to pay for then very rare and expensive genetic test to a lab all the way in the US. Meanwhile, even weirder things occurred in the village. All the women started to have the dream of that terribly beaten up woman that the midwife's daughter described. She would appear sneaking around and especially eyeing on children, weeping bitterly all the time. The bravest of the lot came up to her and pulled the woman's long, messy hair back to identify. And it turned out Park's dead mother. When this story spread it around, the women in the village all stopped gossiping about the identity of the 2 girls because they all knew in what dubious circumstances Park's mother was found dead at a relatively young age. Only Park grew crazier and more violent by day. The Kim family decided to take Park's wife and the little daughter under their care to save them from further abuse. Such unsettling days dragged on, and one night, the brave lady who found out the woman in dream to be Park's late mother had yet another dream of the same woman. She said in a brighter and happier voice than ever heard from her in life,
I can go now. Keep well, sister. Keep well.
and went away. That same night, Park was found dead. That night too he was drunk and wielding a sharp sickle threateningly about. Then he slipped and fell to the rice field and was fatally stabbed by his own sickle. The Kim family accepted Park's widow and the little daughter as their own. The result from the genetic test came belatedly, but the Kim family never revealed it to anybody. The 2 girls who were born together grew up like sisters. Hi, it's Anthony here, and thank you very much for listening. I hope you enjoyed today's stories. I personally don't really know much about my family's past, not even how my parents met, for example. I think the old-fashioned family dynamic that kept certain distance between parents to children made it difficult for my parents to open up to me or me carefully ask questions to them. What about you? How much do you know about your family history? Was there anything that particularly shocked you or irked you when you first learned about it? Not that I want to be so nosy, but do feel free if you want to share. If you enjoyed my work, please give it a big thumbs up and a comment, and please consider subscribing to my channel if you haven't yet. If you're a fan of creepy, spooky and weird, you will enjoy my channel. If you're supporting me more directly, I have a Buy Me a Coffee account, the link's in the description, or there's also a Super Thanks option here on YouTube for a small donation. Thank you. Until next Sunday, stay safe and take care.